Thank you everybody for joining. It's so lovely to see you all on Zoom, and probably you're happy because it's pouring outside, so it's probably quite nice to be connecting in this way. So thank you very much. So my name's Kalpana Wolf. I'm the CEO of Be On Board. For those of you who don't know me, I think I know most of you. And most of you may know the mission of Be On Board is to dramatically diversify boardrooms and governance structures. We believe if you do this, that actually what will happen is that you have greater impact for the community and for the wider economy. And we want to build an inclusive economy. And we do that by creating a talent pool of board-ready people, candidates, or professionals from diverse backgrounds. And we introduce those people to organizations. At the same time, we work with organizations to help them on their ED&I journey. And we believe that both aspects of those will come together to really support this inclusive economy that we have a mission to achieve. Now, within that mission, we work, as I said, with businesses. But of course, there's a huge VCSE sector, which is working within the community to create greater impact. And we know that the VCSE sector needs support in that they often are looking to diversify their boards, or that they have gaps that need filling. We also know that some of them need support and are struggling to do this. So I actually thought of, well, what can we do? You know, what can we do to support the VCSE sector? So I went to the National Lottery, because the National Lottery itself is doing that to a certain extent. It is there giving us funding, supporting organizations to drive change within communities. And so I thought, actually, our ambitions align here. And we, both the lottery and ourselves, have come up with this wonderful program called Aspire. And Aspire is a program to drive real change at boardroom level, which in itself will then bring real change for the wider community and for the VCSE sector to be able to deliver on its mission to support the community. So the thing that it's there to do, it will help do that. So I'm really, really delighted that we are getting this program off the ground. It is groundbreaking. It is innovative. We really want to make it work for Bristol, the Southwest, and beyond at some stage. And this is a pilot that we're starting with, but we are excited today to be able to launch it. And working with the National Lottery is actually amazing. It's a great partnership. So I'm going to let Sarah tell her side of why she has joined with us and what this partnership means and what we hope to achieve. And after that, we'll be going to give you more details about the program. So hello, Sarah. We haven't actually met, but we're meeting here. Thank you so much for joining us. I know Sarah can't stay long, so I'm really grateful for you giving us your time here. So I'll pass on to you now.
Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you for the welcome. I'm delighted to be here this morning to kick this off. And as Kalpana mentioned, the National Lottery Community Fund is just delighted to be supporting Be On Board for this project. I've worked for the fund for 4 years now, but before that I was actually in the voluntary sector myself, mainly in leadership positions. Where I was very often the key link between the Board of Trustees with their strategic overview and the activities of the charity on a day-to-day basis. So very familiar with the role of trustees and how critical they are for an organisation's activity. Our work was actually supporting the families and young people themselves who were running away from home and either experiencing or at risk of exploitation. So it was as you can imagine, quite challenging for us to develop a board of trustees that was representative of the demographics of the people we were trying to support. Challenging, but not impossible. I've now stepped over the other side of the application form and have been working as a funder for 4 years. And what I would say from the National Lottery's perspective is that it's really important to us that staff teams, volunteers and trustee boards are representative of the communities that they're supporting. So we would view really positively organisations that undertake regular reviews of the makeup of their workforce and their governance arrangements to ensure that they're representative of the beneficiaries, as well as having the skills that are needed to support a charity. There's no doubt that becoming a charity trustee is a significant undertaking, but one that does bring great rewards. And charities need to ensure that they have all of the training, development opportunities and support for the trustees that they also provide to their workforce. And the Be On Board project is an opportunity to review current arrangements and ensure that everything is in place to support new board members. The other point that I wanted to make was just about the opportunities that come from having new people as part of your team. Anybody joining an organisation is likely to be asking a lot of why questions. Why do you do things like this? Why don't you do it like this? Why? And this can be quite challenging if you have a board that has done things the same way for a long time. But it can be and should be really exciting and energising and a great opportunity to embrace change, to see a new perspective, to consider things differently. In an ever-changing world, organisations do need to be resilient and open to embracing change. Currently, it's widely recognised that charity boardrooms are overrepresented by an older, white, privileged population. And organisations should really be asking themselves if their current board truly represents the communities that they're trying to support across the whole demographic spectrum. I'm delighted that you're all here today because you're clearly on that journey and wanting to increase the diversity of your trustees. Bristol has a population of 16% from ethnic minority groups, but I'm sure that if we looked at the population of the trustees across the city, it wouldn't be representative of our city demographics. This pilot project that's being funded by us to address this inequity so that our charity governance can become as diverse as the city. So I hope that the rest of the morning is beneficial to you all, and I shall really look forward to catching up with the team to see how this project develops. So thank you for inviting me to kick it off, and I'm really sorry that I can't stay any longer. But yeah, best wishes for the rest of the session.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to introduce myself. Again, I know many of you, we've crossed paths at different versions and times of my life, but it's great to see so many of you joining in on this adventure, certainly putting your hands up because we all recognize the importance. And as part of that, Aspire was actually launched on Martin Luther King's birthday. And its aims are very simple. We want to challenge and change the face of VCSE boards in Bristol and beyond. And we want to do it for good because it is good for business. So what is the dream? Well, for us, it's reasonably simple, but we know it can be quite challenging. It's an action research pilot project that aims to gather compelling evidence that we aim to use to scale up for bigger impacts. I mean, as it stands, we're starting from a reasonably ambitious point of view, but obviously we want to build the evidence to demonstrate the case for support and widening and expanding. It's a 6-month leadership development program aiming from March to September. Of course, it's about adding value to organizations that are ready and wish to embrace diversity on their boards. And it's 8 people of color who inspire to become trustees who we will be supporting throughout this process. So just underpinning quickly, what is the offer on the table for organizations? Well, we're looking at one gap analysis, and we'll be doing this through an ED&I lens. So this is really an audit of your recruitment, your board culture, you know, how ready is your organization to embrace ED&I? We've got 2 workshops, which we encapsulate under how to build an inclusive, bold culture. There'll be a mentoring session with the chair, the CEO, or the ED&I lead. Toolkits just supporting your journey. We'll support you with the comms and embed you into that. And then, of course, at the end, there will be an evaluation report, which we'll share widely across the industry, because we can't keep this to ourselves. It is an industry-wide challenge. Now, that's just for the organizations. On the flip side of that, we have the aspiring trustees. So over 6 months, we're looking for your organization or one of your organizations to host at least 2 aspiring trustees who will sit on your board, and we will support them, be on board, we'll support them throughout their leadership journey. Aspire is based on a shadowing scheme principle. So the trustees or aspiring trustees will sit on your board as advisors, observers, but they will bring valuable skills, expertise, lived experience, and really help give that diversity of thought, lived diversity of thought. Of course, there'll be an option for you to actually make this a permanent position depending on your recruitment cycle. But if it's not for your organization at the time, it just doesn't fit in terms of your recruitment cycle, there will be pathway opportunities for participants, because that's what we do for other organizations. And throughout the aspiring trustees will receive peer-to-peer mentoring and evaluation. So they're not being thrown into the lion's den, so to speak. They're going to be supported all throughout, so that it's a beneficial experience for them and also for you as an organization. Laura.
Thank you very much, Jules. Well, we are delighted to welcome our keynote speaker, Roger Griffith, who is going to talk about the benefits and challenges of a diverse board and how break the negative circle of not inviting more people to the table with new ideas and with new perspectives. So with no more, welcome, Roger. Roger.
Delighted to be here. Great to thanks for the introduction and the warm words. Delighted to be amongst friends once again. Nice to see some of you there. Been asked to talk about my experiences on boards, really, and its importance. And I suppose I've got a wide breadth of just where that all comes from. I started my life on a board about 18 months after I finished my positive action scheme, when a lady called Leo Goodridge sadly departed, and she made it very clear to me that after my positive action scheme, which was a scheme again created by probably a board, a group of people, after I'd finished my positive action scheme, which gave me the skills within housing that then led on to me to being a senior manager and a social entrepreneur and all that I am today, that I had to get something back. And part of that was sitting on a board, the seed board at the time. The leader of that board was Mercedes Tokola Arana. He was the chair. Around me, I had people like Peaches Goldin working with business in the community at that stage. Leo was herself sitting on BREC, which we now know as the Commissioners of Racial Equality. It's evolved over those years. And herself, that started in 1968 as part of the racial relations acts in Bristol. People like Peter Courtier, Asher Craig was around there. So I had very prominent key figures, as well as Batu Pandya at Sari, and which Alex Rake's now running there. I had very key prominent figures in and around me to see that leadership roll through, and this is why this is so important to me now, because I'm handed on that baton, but also telling you how important it is as part of my career. We're going to start really dismantling systematic racism and inequality. We don't just need the protests. We as well. It's two sides of a coin, or the twin track approach, as launched on Dr. King's birthday on the 15th of January. I'll use that analogy as well. We need the twin track. We need Dr. King around the table, as well as Malcolm X outside on the protest and the policy. To make that policy, you need to sit around the table and talk and learn and understand, as well as giving and representing your communities in doing so. So that's what I was asked to do by certainly Leah Goodridge, and I went on to the seed board there for a number of years. That turned into a GMA Radio, one of the initiatives that spun out of there, and as fate happened, I would then go on to become its chair and a board there, and obviously working with Jules and Carlton and War of which shortly. In that lead up, though, I gained a lot of skills. Don't just think of this as just again that binary position. I gained, I saw a spreadsheet for the first time, for instance, and that would become very important when I went into senior management. And you know, but in the job that I had, I would have not seen, because I was a more front-facing role with the council as an officer and benefit clerk. I wouldn't have seen a spreadsheet. It was way above my pay station, if you like. So I saw and sat on the sub-finance committee to gain those skills, things like strategy as well. When we had to read reports which were the size of telephone boxes. Telephone books. What's a telephone books? Look in the encyclopedia or Google, as they now call it, I suppose. Staffing issues that were coming forward. So all these things that I was imbibing and drinking in at the time really, you know, helped me in my career, and later on as I climbed up to the ladder of corporate Bristol City Council. And then obviously went on into my entrepreneurial career, and that's led me now to being on the board. I sit most prominently on the Arts Council South West board. Into my second term there, which is rare, and that's an influencing role. I make very clear about more representation. I'm there to campaign. We've seen more acts in the Southwest, not just Bristol. I work across that region. I'm very clear and led by that. But we've certainly seen more diverse and ethnic minorities that represented, because I'm able to give their voice. I mean, I listen on the streets, and I take that into that boardroom there as well. Now, I'm not responsible for the delivery. It's that influence in role and just understanding from places that the Arts Council aren't aware of. And that also goes for me when I'm in Cornwall and Devon, and people, you might complain about a lot of things, but trust me, when you're in Cornwall and Devon, you've only got one museum outlet. And in Bristol, we're very fortunate. We don't think we are, but you take a walk from the Bristol Old Vic, you pass Arnafini, you pass the Shed, you pass St George's Bristol, Colston Hall, on the way up to the museum. The University of Bristol sits on the hill. Well, that's in a short walk. And I'm sure you've got an hour-long journey into the centre of Newquay or Redroof. It ain't that easy, and the internet is terrible. So you're able, so even on a rural poverty basis, I'm educated from that, and that really, has affected my way of thinking. And if I'm going to talk about privilege, a Bristol privilege that we have, and give me a whole breadth of understanding of people with different issues. Neurodiversity, the same. I'm not fully aware of that, but then it's a whole, quite literally, a spectrum of different needs, and so there's all those skills that I've gained. I'm an advisor to South Gloucestershire Race Equality Network here in South Gloucestershire, where I live in Filton. And they work passionately, again, with very few resources, unlike Bristol, and very few networks, to try and bring more people of colour into supporting them across a range of issues of health and COVID and running those things as well. And then within Film Bath, I've very little diversity on their board in terms of race. So it's very clear that I was going to come in and advise them on that and bring more of that in over the years, as well as sitting on common purpose. So where I am now is on a range of different areas. The important thing is not only to look at it on a personal level, but also what you can do and how that affects those communities, obviously including low-income communities, which a number of you also represent. So this is vital in terms of the future of the Britain that we want to see. And people sometimes criticise me for being critical of Bristol and Britain, because that's why I want to see a better place. That's all that, you know, that's what criticism means. I want, you know, I want the best for myself, and I want the best for the people who live in the country that I represent. And that means challenging. That means bringing that diversity in, always looking around themselves. So who's not here? Which community, are we reaching into those communities where religion is and faith is an area of key importance? Are we, how is our disabled access going? Have we got enough people from the LGBTQ+ community? Are we asking their views? Does this directly affect them? All points, making sure those questions are being asked and answered. And finding that representation and getting feedback. So a number of ways and reasons why this has been important to me. And to close, and looking again at that twin track approach, the work that known Compner for a number of years. She's been on this for a while. When we can, that process and taking down the statue is brilliant. But we also need, in order to dismantle systematic racism and inequality, people around the table making key decisions, and that means allocation budgets, as well as engagement with the communities who are from and represent the communities that are especially marginalised. And from my many years working in giving public service, that more than anything is vital, as well as in business. FTSE 100 has zero Black and Asian representation. We give the police a hard time, as I'm sure Sue will testify, but we don't do enough to hold some of the other institutions to account alongside them. So that is my short 10 minutes, I feel. Really just giving an overview and importance and the value that it's given me, the richness and texture it's given me over the years as an individual, how it's helped my career, working with others, and let's say meeting people that I would never, in terms of neurodiverse communities, people living in rural areas of Britain, giving me a totally different perspective, which has added not only my work, but also my art, and also my activism in terms of my campaigning for justice for all. So I thank you for the opportunity. Great luck to Aspire and be on board, and great luck to all of you. I know what it's like in terms of 10 years at Agema in such hard times, but it's vital the work that you do to link our communities up with the wider organisations, the universities and the businesses. So best of luck to all of you, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Roger. Very enlightening, your message. So with this, we're going to explain what you will have when you participate. Your organization will receive, as Jules mentioned, a boardroom gap analysis, and you will receive 3 workshops that will focus on how to recruit at the center, how to recruit with diversity at the center. This will help you to prepare your recruitment process for the future, for change your organization on a permanently basis, not just for the moment, but to embrace that at the center, embrace diversity in the center. You're going to have a workshop that will empower your organization to diversify your boardroom and embrace diversity and make tangible changes and reshape your board. And in some way, the change will be from the top to the bottom, and that will have an effect in the whole shape of the organization. And we're going to have a workshop on how to build a diversity and inclusive environment. So this is key for your organization. This will allow you to prepare the environment to embrace the diversity and to encourage people to do it as well. So this is going to transform your boardroom and your organization, as governance play a really key part in the organizational environment.
Thank you, Laura. So you've heard quite a lot about the programme. Obviously, we've just given you an overview, so you'll get a chance to answer more questions in a moment. And I'm sure you're asking, well, how do I get onto this fantastic programme? Before that, I just want to say that because it is a pilot, it is going to be a wholly co-created process. So when we say you will have two potential trustees sitting in your boardroom, that is going to be working in partnership. Who are they? What works for you? How, making sure that both sides get as much from it as possible. And I think that I think it's really important that I emphasize that. And also, as we pilot this, what we're looking to do is what works, what doesn't work. What do we need to do maybe better? So the evaluation is very important, because we want to create a template that we can roll out then beyond this pilot to all the other organisations in the sector. So so we'll go on to sort of answer your questions on that in a moment. But you will be saying, so yeah, how do I join? So you need to be a VCSE. You need to be an actual VCSE and based in Bristol or serving Bristol communities. That obviously is a given. You need to be committed to improving ethnic diversity in your boardroom. And we'd like to see some representation of that. We'd like to see some examples of that. And the commitment can be, actually, we're struggling, can you help us? That's absolutely fine. You will need to agree to hosting 2 aspiring trustees to a minimum of 2 board meetings during the programme, so that they can actually learn from the process. As Roger was saying, he got so much from actually just observing, being part of a board, but also you have the opportunity to engage and learn from their lived experience too. So they have to sign up to that as well. Applications have to be in by the 28th of February. That's quite soon, but we hope if, between now and then we can answer any questions you may have. So hopefully it'll be enough time for you to sign up. And I think on the next slide, there is a sort of there's a, next one. You just register at aspire@beonboard.co.uk. And as I said, between now and then, just ask us if you've got any questions. But you're here now. Here's a real opportunity. Roger is still here. We're here, Jules, myself, Laura, to answer any questions. We know that we've gone through it quite quickly, and you may want to digest it. So please just let us know now. Any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask us, ask away, or if you'd like to put a question in the chat, do that as well. So any questions from anybody?
Can I pick up the first question that's being asked, which is actually from Helen?
Lovely.
And yet the short answer is yes, Helen. We will be emailing everybody following this event. We'll be emailing everybody a bunch of information, including the presentation. And just for everyone's information, actually, we have another workshop or webinar, which we'll be doing on Thursday, again, 12 to 1, and this will be with the trustees. That's just for your information.
Yeah, and can I just add, on that email will be the link to the form. So don't worry, you will receive the form and you will have it to register on time. Thank you.
Yeah, we can put that in the chat in a moment. So if you'd like to raise your hand if you've got a question, that would be great. Anybody want to, or any points that you'd like to make about it? Suzanne, have you raised your hand? Or oh no, I can see Martin. Martin.
Hi there. Thanks for an interesting presentation so far. Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. Oh, no, I'm not on mute. What are the skill sets of the aspiring trustees as a generalization? I know it's impossible to be specific because it depends on the individual.
Yeah, Yeah, well, if you want, I answer that one, Jules. They're going to be skilled people with some experience and some professional, and we're looking for people who have applied to be board members, but not being successful for one or the other reason, and they're going to receive all the support, all the training to have the adequate skills to be board. So they're going to be training at the same time as your organization are training. So it's going to be a whole kind of 360 degrees, and then will be complementary each other. So the aspiring trustees will have a skill. We don't know exactly which one yet, but they're going to be with certain level of knowledge.
So what sort of age will they be? How long will they have been in
So
work?
what we've got is at the moment, Martin, we've got 250 people on our database in our talent pool, and they have all sorts of skills. So to your first questions, they have finance skills, they'll have skills in education, science, community, and so on. So there's a wide range, and obviously we want to start by attracting some of those, because some of those have not made it to trustee, but they are aspiring trustees. And I think age range, we're probably on the talent pool, we've got probably, I'd say, from age 30 up plus. But we have just recruited. Our wider networks actually give us an opportunity to attract people from all age groups. We've just recruited for Creative Youth Network, we've recruited for one end, and then we've recruited for NUI at another end. So we are getting, through our recruitment campaigns, we're able to attract all age groups and genders and so on. I think Susanna's asked the same question.
And can I just add to that one of the keys is at this stage, we can't say who's coming to the table because we've yet to meet them, and that event is happening on Thursday. But what I can share is you've got people that first and foremost are putting their hands up to want to be on the board, and that's a really important step for any organization. Secondly, they will have a depth of experience, lived experience that they'll bring to the board that you don't yet have, so they can add that depth and that diversity of thought. And then thirdly, we will look to matchmake ideally individuals based on their interest, based on their level of experience, their expertise, that they can bring to the table to add that depth that you don't yet have on your board. And so from that perspective, I hope that kind of addresses, so we can't drill down right now and say finance or HR, or because that may not be where your pinch point is as an organization anyway. So for us, it is about matchmaking those individuals so that you and them have the best possible experience. I hope that answers your question.
That's why there's a gap analysis. The gap analysis is really what is it you've got here? What is it that's missing? And what can we find? But I keep reiterating, this is a co-created pilot. It is about how do we work together to get the best results. So we sit down in the first instance and say, okay, what do you need as an organization? How can we enhance that? We will bring our expertise and we will challenge you so that you're not making the same decisions again and again in the same way. But we can say, well, what about this and what about that? But actually, it's about the end outcome is about actually getting the most benefit for your board. Is that okay, Martin? Yeah. Anybody else?
I saw a hand up from Helen, and I think there's one or two questions in the chat group. Helen.
Yes, thank you for giving me the platform. I work for Bristol Hospitality Network. We currently have a vacancy now for a new chairperson, which we've advertised. We've only got one member on the board that is one of our members, so somebody with asylum seeking. So, I mean, really my question is, how can we ensure that we get somebody on the board with the relevant skills? And how can we improve on the recruitment for people in the trustees? So what skill set should we be looking, and what strategic aims should we have, or strategic ways of working to ensure that happens, because it will just be the same thing going around. And we're still at the very early stage of trying to, be member-led in our organization.
So if you don't mind, I'll take that question. Thank you very much, Helen, for asking. I think it's a little bit of replication from what we said already. That diversity, that audit that we hold will help us to understand what your needs are. And then we can match make against that based on those that apply. So I think it's really us having that in-depth conversation with you to understand your needs, your challenges, your aspirations, what you already have in place, your learnings, your policies, your practices, your programs, et cetera, priorities, et cetera. And that's what that audit will do and help us shape that understanding, because you're absolutely right. You want to have the right people with the right type of skill sets that can bring value to the work that you do in the way that you do it. But you don't want to repeat the same mistakes from the past. So it is a conversation. It's $1 million question, which we cannot possibly answer without knowing more about your organization. But I mean, the first important commitment that we'd want to see from any organization is your commitment towards embracing diversity, and understanding where you see that value, where it adds value to your organization. So that's a very important step that we'd like to see with any participating organization.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So another question from Jack. So Jack?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can, Jack. How you doing?
Okay, good. Hi. Yeah, it's been really interesting hearing more about the program. Thank you. I guess I have a similar question to Helen, in that we are looking at recruiting some trustees in this kind of next period. And I wonder how this, but yeah, we're keen to bring on people that have experience in our area, that are local to our area, or are kind of beneficiaries of linked to our programs. I'm wondering if this being on this program and having people shadow the board would complicate that process, or can you imagine? Can you think of any ways of mitigating that?
Is that a question for Helen, for us?
Oh, not for Helen, but for you. I mean, I guess, sorry, I can't really see anything.
I mean, it's a conversation we need to sit down. If we've got 19 organizations here in this group at the moment, and we know that it's a pilot for 4, obviously we need to refine, who are going to be the best 4 organizations to benefit from this at this stage. So that's why we'll go through a recruitment process, which will help us understand what your needs are. Once we refine that down to the 4, it's a gap analysis that we can really drill down and give you a bespoke approach rather than sort of an off-the-shelf approach. But I think it's a fair question, in terms of what's relevant and where and when. And so that's certainly part of the recruitment selection process, and you'll see that when you get the forms. But I think it's a fair question. Thank you very much, Jack, for asking it.
But also, I would like to add that this is like everybody kind of mentioned, a pilot project that we are co-creating a new way to work. But we hope that this come into a permanent or a long term. So do not be disappointed. Probably in 6 months, it will be another cohort that can be open, and you can be part of the program. So this is just the beginning, and it is aimed to continue for long term. This is great that you're here, that you're asking the question, and I'm sure by when having the gap analysis, the application form, we're going to help you to address your what you want to achieve in the best possible way. So, is there another question in here on the chat?
No, it's more of a comment. Thank you, Susan. Not a question, but a thank you to Roger, and to say that I was really struck by your comment, who is not here. I think we have to keep asking ourselves this, and Aspire seems an excellent way of starting to do this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If you want to put a hand up, or if you just want to unmute yourself and just jump in the middle and skank, as one very famous orator would say.
Yeah, Jane.
We will send the presentation round, and as I said, and you can connect with us. So some of the questions that you're asking, we need to do a deep dive into those, and we will do that. We'll give you the opportunity to sit and talk with us, so Jack and Helen, so you will get some real feedback on the next steps. Oh, Jamie, you've got a question. Hello.
Hi, Kalma. Thanks for that, and thank you, everyone. And just to echo everyone's thought, really interesting, interesting session. I think probably follows on Suzanne's comment as well in terms of who is not here, and just trying to understand, I suppose, the focus for the pilot, because I think there's been a couple of references to focus on ethnic diversity, but also other, I suppose, just generally diversity and inclusion, and thinking about I suppose, the gap analysis. Ethnic diversity is clearly really important, but for us, I know we've been talking about this at Young Bristol, when we talk about who's not here, LGBTQ+, disabled, and it's the breadth of diversity around the table. So I just trying to get a sense, maybe there's a particular focus on ethnic in terms of the trustees and the observers, but that I suppose the actual workshops and the training will be a broader diversity inclusion focus. Is that?
Yes, if I don't mind, I'll take that. It's a great question, Jamie. So absolutely, the focus is here for this workshop, for this particular strand of work, is around that the fact that there's only 8% of trustees of color, 2.5 are women of color. So we have directly pinpointed that specific need to address that representation. When Sarah started off, she talked about the 16%. So we're aware that diversity is you know, and the intersectionality of what diversity means for all of us, because the truth is we're all under the protected characteristics. Everyone sat here is under the protected characteristics of the Equalities Act 2010. So when we talk about specifically the diversity that we're looking to address here, it is from a racial representation point of view. But because this is a pilot project, we're very aware that challenge is much deeper, much wider. You know, whether we are talking about those other 9 protected characteristics and more, because we're not talking about social status here, which is not a protected characteristics, for example. So we know that it's much wider and deeper, and we want to use this pilot to really demonstrate this case and then scale up the need. And then, of course, part of this is driven by the needs of you, of the organizations, who will really help articulate that need, which we know is not just racial diversity, but we are starting somewhere. We have to take the first step in this 1,000-mile journey, and our first step is on race. We believe that if we break and achieve that, then we can apply lots of learnings to lots of other groups.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. Thank you. I suppose one observation, this might come out through the pilot, is just how I think it's really important to get people around the table, and that is a huge step. But how do we get, we can't get representation of everyone around the table. How do we get all voices in and heard by the board, as well as having the right people on the table and the people around the table who will hear those voices? So that for me is quite an important step in terms of trying to ensure sort of a more diverse perspectives.
It's a very valuable and ongoing challenge for all boards, regardless of your level of diversity. But it goes back to what Susan said, is who's not in, and what Roger referenced, who's not in the room. And as a starting point, we have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity, to have 2 people from 2 different backgrounds that are not in the room. And so you can start that process and that journey. And it's an ongoing journey, because there is no end destination. There really isn't. It's just more to do.
And I think there is something about, you know, we talk about sometimes, oh, people are going to come and you see them literally at face value almost, you know, but actually people are coming with their networks, and they're coming with wider sort of connections, and we all move in mixed circles. So when you get 2 people, they will come with all sorts of connections and knowledge about you know, being in different communities as well. So you've got the benefit of that too. And I think, you know, one of the things that we would like to see is actually, when we're talking about how do we get to your organization being diverse or inclusive, one of those things might be, actually we need an advisory board which is made up of all sorts of other people, you know, that feeds into the board, because a board can only be in a certain size. So there has to be, so there may be other things that come out of this. The end goal is to make you understand the value of diversity and to be able to have that feeding into your decision making. So there might be a number of things that do that, that does that. Thank you. I hope that's helpful. And Suzanne, did you put your hand up again? Hello, Suzanne.
Sorry, hi, Kalpna. I was about to say very much the same as you just said in response to Jamie's comments, and it was just that, you know, we always have to start somewhere, and we're talking about boards, but I think to answer Jamie's point as well, it's more about how we think about governance structures more widely as well, and the informal as well as the formal opportunities for involvement, and whether that be through, there's the board of course, but equally important I think are always the committees, the task groups, the advisory groups, all those things. So just echoing what you said, Kalpna, and it is just something at Quartet Community Foundation that we've really valued, and particularly because the nature of our business is partially around grants, making grants. But I think one of the things we do best is to have grant panels which are drawn really widely from people with lived experience from around communities. So, yeah. That's
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. Thank you.